The movie opens in a very busy office. There, the employees run around and warn each other of the arrival of their boss, Preston Bullock. As Mr. Bullock, a profit-obsessed, strict man, walks into his office, all the employees hold their tongue and try their best to go unnoticed. Some of them even try to greet him, but he just berates them for being lazy. Seeing this, his secretary, Cyril, makes sure everything is perfect so as not to face his boss's wrath. Shortly after, Mr. Bullock goes to a board meeting, where Riley Thomas, a hardworking and enthusiastic consultant, gives a presentation, stating that because of their most recent loss, they had to liquidate one of their shipment companies. As a result, they had to lay off over 100 employees, along with the CEO. All the board members are upset by this news, but Mr. Bullock simply shrugs it off, showing no concern for his employees. He then quickly adjourns the meeting and calls Riley into his office to discuss business details. Moments later, as Riley prepares to leave the meeting room, Dana, an investment firm owner and board member, approaches her. Dana exclaims that liquidating a company suddenly and firing almost 150 employees might be beneficial financially, but it is morally wrong. With Christmas just around the corner, many employees now have to start job hunting instead of enjoying the holidays. Riley nods and asserts that she was only following Preston's orders. She then bids Dana goodbye and hurries to Mr. Bullock's office. Riley soon enters the office and kindly greets Preston, asking why he summoned her so suddenly. Mr. Bullock responds that he is incredibly impressed with her and wants to promote her as soon as possible. He then inquires about one of their smaller holding companies, Outwear, located in Chestnut, Vermont. After a moment of thought, Riley explains that it is a designer boutique company that was quite popular a few years ago. Mr. Bullock informs Riley that the company is no longer as famous and has been underperforming for the last 5 years. Despite being their company's very first investment, he now wants to shut it down due to its poor performance. Riley is shocked and unsure how to react, but soon realizes that if she doesn't agree, Preston could easily fire her. Reluctantly, she agrees to handle it and prepares to head to the file room. That's when Preston tells her that she'll need to go to Vermont for a complete closeout. Despite being nervous, Riley hesitantly agrees and walks out of the office. The scene now cuts to Chestnut, where the CEO of Outwear, Wyatt, walks into his office and inspects all their newest clothing articles. Just then, he gets a call from Cyril, informing him that they're sending Riley down there to take a look at the company. Wyatt quickly understands what this is about and tries to tell him that they are planning to launch several new products in the coming months, so their profits will surely be a lot higher soon. Cyril, however, just ignores him and asserts that Riley will arrive at their office early the next morning. Not wanting to argue, Wyatt exclaims that they'll be ready for her arrival and quickly hangs up. Back in New York, Riley punches out of the office and goes on a date with her boyfriend David. There she tells him that she now has a very serious job of liquidating a failing company. She then explains that if she manages to do so successfully, she would not only get promoted, but her salary would also increase drastically. David congratulates her heartily and wishes her all the best. However, deep down, Riley feels really guilty. With a solemn face, she complains about Mr. Bullock not caring about anyone and firing people right before Christmas. David just laughs and tells her that Christmas is a commercialized holiday with no special meaning. He then asks her to cheer up, saying that companies fail all the time, so it's not her fault that people are losing their jobs. Riley understands this and tries her best to stay calm. Eventually, after a long conversation, David advises her to not reveal her true motives until everything has been finalized. He asks her to go to Vermont under a false pretense and only puts the nail in the coffin when she's leaving. Riley feels as though this is a great idea and sticks to what he says. The next day, Riley goes to Chestnut and tries to find her way around the town. Just as she's looking at the map in her hand, a group of kids crashes into her, causing her to fall on top of a bunch of trash bags. Thankfully, an older gentleman, who introduces himself as Nick, comes to her aid and helps her up. He then tells her that he's going to Outwear as well, so he will gladly show her the way. Riley readily agrees and thanks him for the help. Soon after, the two reach their destination. There, Nick cheerfully greets all the employees and tells them that he's looking for a job. Meanwhile, Riley asks around for quite a while and then proceeds to go to Wyatt's office. But before she can do so, Wyatt walks over to her and introduces himself. He then reveals to her that the founder of Outwear is none other than Nick himself. Now confused, she asks Nick why he would apply for a job in a company that he created. In response, a gloomy Nick replies that after he sold his company to Preston's holding company, he was forced to retire. Riley is shocked by this and doesn't know how to respond. Instead, she tries to ask Wyatt about the company's finances. In response, Wyatt simply tells her that they're doing good and are not interested in any kind of help. Riley is really confused upon hearing this and asks him to elaborate. That's when she realizes that Cyril had told Wyatt the only reason their company is sending a consultant is to offer help and make certain adjustments for better profit. Despite being utterly surprised, Riley remains calm and tells him that she's there for the same exact reason. Eventually, Wyatt politely asks Riley to leave, stating that they don't need any monitoring. Riley retorts that the holding company has controlling power, so she will stay at the office and take care of things. Wyatt, annoyed by her attitude, suggests they discuss the matter in private. Riley agrees and follows him to his office. Once there, Wyatt informs her that his company provides employment to the entire town, and every family depends on Outwear for their livelihood. Needless to say, Riley is gutted to hear this and stays silent for a while. She then pretends to have a plan that could boost the company's profits, but Wyatt doesn't trust her and instantly declines her request. He snarkily tells her that she doesn't have the ability to see the company for what it truly is. Riley is angered, but also understands his point. Determined to fulfill her plan, she decides to hire someone to help her learn about Chestnut and the company. She then storms out of the office and instantly hires Nick at the company since he knows both the company and the town really well. Now confused, Wyatt stops her and tells her that she just can't boss everyone around. Riley simply smirks at that and informs him that she is the representative for Mr. Bullock's company, Bullock & Barnes. She is now the temporary head of Outwear, so she will do anything in her power to make the company better. Needless to say, Wyatt is left fuming. Nick, on the other hand, is elated to get a job and instantly accepts Riley's offer. Immediately after, he starts pulling out all the company's files and reports for Riley to analyze. Later that night, Riley calls David and tells him about her day. She asks if she's doing the right thing by hiding such a big fact from the entire town. David reassures her that it's completely fine and asserts that she's only doing what is expected of her. Riley nods and bids him good night. The next morning, Riley arrives at the office and greets everyone cheerfully. Edie, one of the employees, hands her an invitation to Outwear's upcoming Christmas party. Riley accepts the invitation but questions how they can afford to throw such an event when the company is struggling. Edie explains that it's just a Christmas party, but Riley isn't satisfied with the answer. Not wanting to reveal her real plans, she simply says she won't stay until Christmas and walks away. Shortly after, Wyatt offers to give her a tour of the office and manufacturing facility since she's so keen on knowing everything. Riley agrees, and they head toward the factory. On the way, Wyatt helps multiple people and greets everyone politely. It's evident that the people of Chestnut are very close-knit, almost like family. Riley is touched by this, but remains focused on her goal. Eventually, they arrive at the manufacturing facility, where they join Nick and observe the production floor. Riley looks at the people working there and is shocked to see just how close they are with Wyatt. They all wish him a Merry Christmas, which annoys her, as she believes holidays are just a facade for companies to make more money. It's clear that she has a pessimistic outlook on life, and seeing the cheerful employees only irritates her further. Moving forward, Riley looks at the equipment there and is pleasantly surprised to see them in such good condition. She checks their documentation and prepares to sell them as soon as possible. After the tour, Wyatt and Riley head back to the main office. On their way, Riley asks why everyone in the office kept thanking her for the help. In response, Wyatt tells her since Outwear had been struggling for quite a while, everyone thought the company would shut down really soon. That was the reason why they were hosting the upcoming Christmas Eve party, since they thought it would also end up being their farewell party. But now that Riley is here, everyone thinks she'll help take the company to a better place. Hearing this, Riley feels a lot worse than she originally did. However, she sticks to the plan and informs Preston that she has already assessed the property, and informs him that they can make quite a profit by liquidating Outwear. As expected, Preston is pleased to hear this, and thanks Riley. At one point, Riley asks him what will happen to the townspeople after Outwear is gone. In response, Mr. Bullock says that he simply doesn't care, and that it's none of his concern. A while later, Riley goes back to the office where she sees Nick trying to make some coffee, but due to his old age, he accidentally drops a mug and groans in frustration. Seeing this, Riley comes to help him and suggests they go out for a walk. Nick readily agrees to this, and so the two head to a ski resort. They sip on some coffee while enjoying the surroundings. While observing the people before her, Riley says that she would never ski or do anything that meant losing control of herself. That's when Nick tells her that despite always being careful, fate will always make you face hard times. He then talks about his late wife, Miriam, who loved Christmas dearly. He says that Christmas was the only time when they'd let go of everything and just cherish each other. But unfortunately, Miriam passed away 2 years ago, and ever since then, Nick has been all alone. Unable to handle the loneliness anymore, he decided to apply for a job to pass his time. When Riley learns all this, she feels guilty for what she's about to do, but quickly pushes this thought away. After a long conversation, they go back to the office, take care of some errands, and prepare to head back home. Just then, Riley notices Nick's diary. Curious, she opens it to find multiple clothing designs. Riley is thoroughly impressed by the designs and asks Nick to show them to Wyatt, but he instantly declines, saying he doesn't want to waste Wyatt's time. However, Riley urges him to approach Wyatt with the designs. Nick tries to refuse once again, but just then, Wyatt walks in. He prepares to close the office, but Riley stops him, stating that she'll close up and go home. Enraged by her bossy attitude, Wyatt taunts her incessantly before storming out of the office. Seeing this, Nick hurries after him and stops him. He then suggests the two take a walk together to calm down and call a truce. Both Wyatt and Riley instantly refuse, but Nick continues insisting, so the two hesitantly agree. Shortly after, the two start walking toward Riley's office. Wyatt tries to initiate a conversation, but Riley gives curt answers. As a result, the two end up getting into a really heated argument once again. Eventually, Wyatt realizes that he doesn't want to keep fighting, so he just decides to be civil toward her. He then talks about how he also wanted to go to New York at one point in time. However, he decided against it, after seeing how fast-paced and hectic everyone's life was. He exclaims that he just prefers his small town, where every single person knows and treats each other like family. Riley scoffs upon hearing this, and sarcastically wishes him the best. Thankfully, Wyatt brushes her comments off and continues walking with her. Later, Wyatt drops her off at the hotel and bids her goodbye. Just as he's about to leave, Riley smiles and thanks him for walking her home. She then jokes around for a while, and finally warms up to him. Wyatt is elated to see this, and gladly reciprocates her jokes. Eventually, they bid each other good night and part ways. Moments later, Riley gets a call from David, who tells her all about his day in corporate New York. Riley used to be interested in listening to him before, but now, she just finds him dull and boring, since all he talks about is his job. When David finally asks her about Outwear, Riley confesses to him that she feels really guilty about the whole closeout. Feeling distraught, she complains that the entire town depends on the company for their livelihood, and uprooting it might be very damaging to them. Despite listening to all this, David asks her not to worry about the people and simply focus on getting her promotion. Riley just nods at this and hangs up. The next morning, Riley goes to the office with a new motive. As soon as she enters the place, she urges Nick to give her detailed reports on where the company stands financially. She then asks Steve to bring out all the designs and prototypes he has been working on. During all this, Preston tries to contact her multiple times, but she simply ignores him. This makes him really worried and agitated. As a result, he keeps harassing Cyril to locate Riley. Moving forward, Riley takes a look at all the recent designs and rejects them all, calling them boring and uninteresting. She then looks at the finances of the company to see what they can afford to do at the moment. When Wyatt sees Riley working so hard to save the company, he feels really grateful and thanks her for the help. He then offers to assist her in her plan. Together, he, Riley, and Nick decide to launch a new product so that they may reach their profit target by Christmas. But since they don't have any interesting prototypes, Riley starts to panic. Now frustrated, Riley walks out of the office to think of a plan. She goes to a nearby ice rink and watches the people there while sipping on some coffee. She then walks around the city and quietly observes the kind-hearted people around her. At one point, Riley goes to a nearby greenhouse and notices a single white rose blooming in winter. When she asks the caretaker about it, he informs her that the rose bush is about a century old and it only produces one flower in a season. That is the reason why it's so cherished and important. Hearing this, Riley gets an incredible idea. She immediately rushes to Nick and Wyatt and tells them that they should no longer supply winter jackets and boots. Rather, they ought to launch limited edition holiday items that would remind people of Vermont and Outwear as a company that focuses on providing people with quality products. Shortly after, Riley calls for an entire team at the office and pulls out Nick's diary. She then tells them they'll be relaunching their most popular products, but with certain twists, so that it captivate their audience. Needless to say, Wyatt, as well as the entire company, are fascinated by this idea and decide to go ahead with it. They all immediately get to work and start designing Christmas sweaters since they're all the rage now. Now hopeful, Wyatt approaches Riley and thanks her for her help. He praises her for really sticking to her plan and studying the entire town, which eventually causes her to come up with a brilliant solution. Riley simply smiles at that and thanks him for the motivation. She finally feels as though she has done the right thing and decides to continue working with Outwear until they're stable enough. Back in the office, all the employees work at full speed and try really hard to meet their profit margin before Christmas. Steve even goes on to promote their new product on social media to get more traction. However, it turns out that due to a lack of profit, a lot of retailers aren't interested in partnering up anymore. Now concerned, Wyatt asks Steve to continue trying and even asks him to approach new retailers and boutiques. That night, Riley calls David and excitedly tells him all that she's been planning. But much to her dismay, David is shocked at the news. He tells her that this is a really bad idea and asks her to stick to what Preston told her to do. Now frustrated, he warns that this plan will not only result in her unemployment, it will destroy the entire town of Chestnut. Riley, who had expected some positive encouragement from David, gets infuriated by these remarks and hangs up on him right then and there. The next day, Riley orders multiple posters to be placed all across town promoting their newest Christmas sweater. She then sends advertisements to different channels and FM stations, asking them to boost Outwear's newest products. As expected, her plan works, and the sweaters start selling out. Days pass by, and the sweaters are supplied to multiple stores and outlets all across the country. A week before Christmas, Riley looks at the Christmas sweater sales reports and is shocked to find out that they've already made $1.5 million. Since their profit margin is $2 million, Riley cheers in excitement and hugs Wyatt tightly. Since they only have $500,000 left to hit the margin, they become positive that they can now save the company. Wyatt immediately takes this opportunity to ask Riley out. However, he also invites Nick with them to ensure that things don't get awkward between them. Moments later, the three of them go to a nice restaurant where both Nick and Wyatt express their gratitude towards Riley for helping them through such a tough time. Riley just blushes at this and tells them that none of this would have happened had their employees not worked so hard. To show their appreciation, Wyatt gives Riley her own Christmas sweater and asks her to put it on. Riley readily does so, while stating that the sweater is really comfortable. Just then, slow music starts playing across the restaurant, so Wyatt asks Riley for a dance. Riley agrees, but instead of going with Wyatt, she takes Nick to dance with her. Needless to say, Wyatt is left disappointed. In the meantime, Nick asks Riley if she is interested in Wyatt. Riley replies that she is. However, she complains that Wyatt doesn't really like her, so getting too close to him might hurt her. Hearing this, Nick asks her not to be so sure about his feelings and urges her to get closer to him. Riley agrees with this and hopes that Wyatt confesses his feelings to her fast enough. Right at that moment, Wyatt approaches Riley and asks if she'd like to dance with him. Now flustered, Riley agrees and gets closer to him. The two sway to the music whilst complimenting each other. Soon, they both realize their feelings for each other and lean in for a passionate kiss. But just as their lips are about to touch, Riley changes her mind and embraces him instead. She places her head on his shoulder and slowly dances with him. Later that day, while Riley is working, Wyatt walks into her office and informs her that their sweaters are selling really fast. But since they have a lot of work to do, they are forced to stay at the office for incredibly long hours. So, in order to cheer everyone up, Wyatt suggests they order pizza. Riley is about to agree, but just then, she gets a call from Preston. Now panicking, she immediately runs out of the office to talk to him. As expected, Mr. Bullock yells at her for directly disobeying his orders and selling sweaters instead. Riley tried to explain her side, but Preston continued berating her for being so stupid. Eventually, she blurts out that even though her sole purpose there was to fire everyone and sell the company's assets, she could not do it anymore. At that moment, she turns around to see Wyatt standing behind her. Unfortunately, he had heard everything. Heartbroken, he doesn't say a word and just runs back to the office. Riley runs behind him and tries to explain the entire situation to him, but Wyatt completely ignores her. Instead, he tells everyone in the company about Riley's main goal. Overwhelmed with emotions, Riley tells them that she did want to lay everyone off at the start, but after getting to know them and the company, she decided against it. She explains to them that she genuinely wants to help them. Wyatt, however, cuts her off and accuses her of using them. He yells at her for exploiting them and lying to them about her true motive. Tears stream down Riley's eyes as she tries her hardest to convince everyone otherwise, but sadly, it doesn't work. So, she just apologizes to everyone and runs out of there. After she leaves, Nick glares at Wyatt for being way too insensitive. He asserts that even though Riley wasn't truthful from the beginning, she was definitely genuine. He then tries to change Wyatt's mind about Riley but ends up failing miserably. Back at the hotel, Riley quickly wipes her tears and packs up all her stuff. She then books a cab and plans on leaving Chestnut as soon as possible. Amidst this whole ordeal, Riley keeps thinking about Wyatt and reminiscing about all the moments they spent together. Soon after, she gets into the cab and leaves for the airport. On the other hand, the sweater's sales start to slow down, and Wyatt gets incredibly worried. Noticing his anxiety, Steve explains that the only reason their sweater isn't doing so well is because they didn't have enough time. Wyatt simply nods at this and stays silent. He is now convinced that their company will be liquidated, so he gives a speech to all his employees before they part ways for good. He profusely thanks them all for their hard work and urges them to come to Outwear's upcoming, and quite possibly the last, Christmas Eve party, and enjoy themselves to the fullest. Back in New York, Riley goes to meet David to clear her head. However, she keeps checking her phone for updates on the Christmas sweaters. Seeing this, David gets really annoyed and asks her to just stop thinking about them. Instead, he urges her to look for a job because Preston will surely fire her any moment now. Riley, however, doesn't care about her job at all. All she cares about are the people of Chestnut, who were so happy to see her helping them. With a solemn face, she explains to David that Vermont helped her to discover herself and has basically changed her whole outlook on life. Finally, after a whole lot of thinking, Riley tells David that she isn't like him. She wishes him the best in life and then dumps him. She quickly leaves the restaurant and heads back home. But just then, she runs into Dana, who appears to be wearing an Outwear sweater. Still wanting to help the company, Riley asks Dana if they can talk privately. Dana readily agrees, so the two head to a nearby bar. There, Riley explains the entire situation to Dana and even goes on to say that she's not the same person anymore. Finally, after a brief conversation, she asks Dana for a big favor. Back in Chestnut, all the employees of Outwear gather together for their annual Christmas Eve party. They talk to each other, grab some drinks, and then dance around to the music. Meanwhile, a very stressed Wyatt remains cooped up in his office, blaming himself for the downfall of Outwear. Frustrated, he laments about how they're so close to the profit margin. Just then, Steve approaches him and asks him to join them at the party. Despite being hesitant, Wyatt agrees and goes to the main hall. He quickly joins Nick, and together, the two propose a toast to Outwear and its amazing employees. They thank everyone for their hard work and prepare to announce the official end of the company. But at that moment, Riley appears in front of him and tells him that Outwear is not going to shut down anytime soon. Wyatt is surprised to see her and instantly runs up to her. He apologizes for being so harsh and thanks her for all her ideas and effort. Riley simply smiles at that and then apologizes to everyone for hiding the truth from them. While smiling gleefully, she announces that Dana, who after hearing all about Chestnut and Outwear, was so intrigued by the place that she decided to give its people a chance. Riley then explains that Dana's investment company is more than willing to fully invest in Outwear's classic clothing line. That means the company is still in business. Hearing this, everyone cheers in excitement and thanks her for going to such lengths for them. After a while, a very curious Nick asks Riley about her career. Concerned, he inquires what Preston thinks of this. Suddenly, both Dana and Preston walk into the party as well, where Preston announces that because of Dana's investment, he is not shutting the company down anytime soon. He then looks at Riley and praises her for saving Outwear. However, since she failed to meet his expectations, he still fires her on the spot. Wyatt immediately takes this opportunity to hire Riley and asks her to work with them instead. Needless to say, she gladly agrees. Later, while Riley casually looks over at all the people at the party, Wyatt approaches her and asks her to stay back in Chestnut. He then confesses his feelings to her and tells her that he has fallen for her. Now emotional, Riley quickly wipes her tears and reveals that she loves him too. The two then kiss each other and decide to start dating. Seeing this, the entire party claps for them, including a very puzzled Preston, and wishes them the best in life.